Hi, this is a video on the concept of earnings quality. Earnings quality refers to the ability of reported earnings on the income statement to predict a company's future earnings. That's a very significant aspect of what users of our financial statements are seeking to do. They're seeking to take our current results, our current net income, predict future net income, and that will help them predict future cash flows around the company. Earnings quality is the ability, relates to the ability for users to separate the temporary earnings components and the permanent earnings components of total net income. The temporary earnings component arises from transactions or events that are not likely to occur or are likely to have a different impact on earnings in the future. The permanent earnings component of total net income arises from the operations that are expected to generate similar profits in the future. The classic example here is sales to a loyal customer base. Those are very permanent, high-quality earnings components. Let's look at some threats to earnings quality, some things that reduce our overall earnings quality, the quality of the net income number, the ability of that net income number to help a user predict future earnings. The first is income smoothing. This occurs when managers alter assumptions or make estimates opportunistically to make a pattern of earnings look smoother than it actually is, to make the pattern of earnings look smoother than the true underlying economic volatility of the earnings. It can also, another threat to earnings quality is classification shifting, where managers try to report expenses that are really ongoing operating expenses, but they try to call them non-operating expenses. This results in higher operating income amounts than the underlying economic reality. So there they try to shift things from operating to non-operating expense lines because they know that operating income is an especially important subtotal to the users of the financial statement. Another threat to earnings quality are charges in operating income that are not recurring. Some examples here include the restructuring charge or a goodwill impairment charge. These are known as unusual items in operating income. So operating income is lower this period, but that's a little less high quality for predicting the future because the hope and the plan is that the future net income will not have that restructuring charge or that goodwill impairment. Finally, another threat to earnings quality is real earnings management. This refers to a situation where managers carry out transactions simply for an accounting outcome. An example here is accelerating sales or delaying expenses such as R&D, research and development costs. These are only done to make net income higher in this period. If we accelerate the sale, we're simply taking a sale that was going to occur on January 3 and bringing it back to December 29. If we delay an expense, we are delaying a research and development cost expense from, for example, December to January, so that net income is higher this year, but will be lower next year. Those are some examples of how earnings quality is lessened. This is another topic, non-GAAP earnings. Many companies provide a non-GAAP earnings measure that is purported to better reflect the true underlying income from continuing operations for that company. Remember, we saw these when we looked through Target's annual report. This is a voluntary disclosure, and it's not discouraged at all. But Remember that companies must reconcile that non-GAAP net income amount to the closest analogous GAAP-based income measure. Now, going back to earnings management, you may have heard of this. Why do they, quote, manage earnings? Why do they want a particular earnings per share? The most common reason is to beat an earnings target. Common earnings targets are for companies to avoid reporting a net loss, get net income positive, or beat the prior year, have net income increase over the prior period, or beat the analyst forecast of what earnings were going to be. Each of these has been shown to have value to the share price. So the company might take one of those actions, like smoothing earnings, or excuse me, or real earnings management to manage earnings to their target. Another reason they might manage earnings is to avoid technical default on their bonds or their bank loans. These bonds or bank loans have contracts associated with them that allow the bank, for example, to take certain actions if the company finds itself in technical default of violating the terms of any particular covenant, any particular agreement in the debt contract. Some of these are based on financial statement measures. And so the company might take actions to avoid not being in compliance with those requirements. And there are other reasons, many others, such as pending union negotiations or government scrutiny on the company, for example, for monopoly concerns. All of these are reasons companies might, quote, manage earnings. Okay, and that's an introduction to earnings quality and the notion of earnings quality. Something very near and dear to me. It is a more sophisticated topic, but it'll be a big part of your career. And so I wanted to introduce the terminology to you now. Thank you for your attention. Have a great day.